Transportation and Desegregation, the Civil Rights Era. Today we're going to talk about the Civil Rights Movement, the years 1950 to 1960. African Americans' rights were not equal to whites. They had to sit at the back of the bus, enter on the back of the bus. They had to use separate restrooms, and they had separate entrances into businesses. John Robinson, who taught English, moved to Alabama to teach at the Alabama State College in 1947. Unaware of the segregation law, she sat at the front of the bus. The driver yelled at her. She was so frightened she ran off the bus. She also was angered by how she was treated. She met with the Political Women's Committee, an organization founded to respond to the mistreatment of Negroes. In 1954, she wrote a letter to the commissioners asking for a city law to allow Negroes to sit in the front of the bus so all seats would be utilized. They did not respond to her letter. On December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give her a seat to a white man. She was arrested, convicted, and fined the same day. Rosa was an active member of the NAACP. Her defiance of the local segregation law helped change. On December 5, 1955, 5,000 blacks met at the Holy Baptist Church. This mass meeting gave birth to the Montgomery Improvement Association, where Martin Luther King was the first president. After Rosa's arrest, the citizens of the black community decided to walk rather than take the bus. This started the 381-day boycott in Montgomery, Alabama, which was the freedom and symbol for the African American community. It also meant risk would be at large, which could mean death or beatings, which were not. On February 1st, 1955, a lawsuit was filed on behalf of 4 women who had been told to go to the back of the bus or to give up their seat to a white person, challenging the segregation law. On December 17, 1956, U.S. Supreme Court upheld the federal court's decision ruling that Montgomery's segregated bus codes were unconstitutional. On December 20, 1956, 13-month boycott ended. This was the end of the segregation on the bus lines in Montgomery, Alabama. Unable to find work and having continued death threats, Rosa and Rama Parks moved to Detroit, Michigan. There they found racism as bad in the North as it was in the South. Neighborhoods were overcrowded in the black community to keep them away from the whites. In 1963, Rosa joined Martin Luther King Jr. on Detroit's Great March to Freedom. This march drew nearly 200,000 blacks supporting the end of segregation, as it was right before the March to Washington, the largest ever at the Capitol, was 250,000 people, which a quarter of them were white. It sought to end segregation, racial discrimination, and violence against blacks. The agenda consisted of improvement in decent housing, job training programs, a national minimum wage, and barring discrimination in trade unions. President Kennedy supported the march. The march was noted for its civility and calmness. It was one of the most peaceful demonstrations in history. King's speech is one of the most famous in history, I Have a Dream. He spoke of where children will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by their character. We will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty we are free at last. Great strides have been made to end racial discrimination in our country. Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King have given us a landmark to go by. They have paved a path for us to follow if we choose to take it. They believe the words in the Constitution that we are all created equal. Set aside your differences and move forward as one nation. Thank you.